an art teacher, a professional artist, and an ex-game dev, having worked on titles such as Overwatch, Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft 2, and today I'm going to give you 5 life-changing tips that will begin affecting your art progress positively right away. These tips rarely get mentioned and they will have the greatest impact, so sit back and get ready to level up your art. Let's get started with the new episode of this ongoing weekly series that I'm going to start calling YouTube Art School. Let's get started. Alright, welcome to this new episode of the YouTube Art School, where I teach you something new about art every single Friday. If you're an artist, you must be subscribed to the channel. It's the law. Now, I know you've been talking to your doctor asking him, when is Marc going to post a video about ways to improve your art? Not tips like draw more or other obvious nonsense like that, although you should totally draw more. No, I'm talking about tips you haven't heard yet, most likely. And well, I'm happy to tell you that today is the day, so let's get right into it. These tips are in no particular order. They're all equally as important, so you'll want to watch the whole thing. Otherwise, those who do will surpass you and they'll reach your art dreams sooner while you're left crying in a cold shower. Or maybe you'll be alright, but why take the risk? So then, let's get to the first tip. Draw from references. Wait a minute, bro, you said you'd give out new tips. We've heard this one before. Yes, but I've never shown you how to study from reference. So here's how to maximize your growth when you want to draw from reference. First, don't draw. Learn the theory. If you want to draw a character, for example, which is a pretty common thing, start by learning about gesture, drawing, and anatomy. Just a little bit of context goes a very long way when you practice. Just like watching a sport, there's no way you'll be able to watch and follow the game unless you know the rules at least a little bit. Get familiarized with the rules of art. Once you have some theory in the bag, then start drawing using the photo references. Photos of people, in our example here. With the context the theory will provide, you'll be better equipped to observe the references better and soak up more of its information as a result. Even better, to maximize improvements, try drawing from imagination after you go through the theory, before you even look at the references. The result will most likely be disappointing, but it will highlight a lot of your shortcomings that you have, which will make you more likely to pick up on the information that you lack once you start to really observe your references. So, to recap, study a bit of theory first to learn the rules of the game. Then, practice from imagination what you just learned to highlight your weaknesses. And then, bring in the references and start drawing what you actually observe. Of course, keeping in mind the theory behind it. This is how you use references properly. Do it. The second tip will be to find an art goal and keep your eyes on the prize. Art goals can be many things. It can be a particular position at a certain studio, like a 2D character concept artist working for Blizzard Entertainment. When I started, my art goal was as simple as getting more attention on DeviantArt back in the days. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in art, but I knew that I really enjoyed the feeling of posting a painting that does well and that people seem to enjoy. That was a huge source of motivation for me, seeing the numbers go up with each painting. But that's just one example. It could also be to get good enough to draw your own comic. It can be to simply be able to draw character portraits or be able to get 1 million followers on Instagram. Whatever your goal is, keep reminding yourself why you're working so hard. Motivation is always hard to maintain. I'd argue it's impossible unless you're working towards a goal. The goal is what makes you move. It's what springs you into action, so keep it front and center, always. Have something that reminds you of it as a desktop wallpaper maybe, or have it framed in your office, hanging right above your screen. Sure, in the best case scenario, you'll enjoy what you do enough to keep working towards it naturally. But that's rarely how it goes for most of us. With a goal, you can put together a plan to get there. Without a goal, it's all a blur. Now, tip number 3 is going to be state of mind. So I dedicate a full class on this topic in my art school program, so there's a lot to explore in very little time. But here's one actionable point that you'll notice the effect of right away if you start doing it. If you're like most artists, myself included, I would typically draw until I'm either done with a piece or I've had enough and pick things up at a later time. I would stop when I'm not 100% sure of how to improve the piece or when I'm frustrated with the result and I need to change my mind. The point here is this: That's bad. And don't do that. Never stop when you've had too much, when you're frustrated, when you're in a bad state of mind. Stop while you're having fun. The idea is to trick your brain into always craving art. Just like a good video game you just picked up, or a good book, whatever you're into. I'm sure we all feel the same way when we have to put it down because we have other things to do. We crave it. You can't wait to go back and pick it up again. Now, imagine you start doing that with your art too. When you feel like things are going well, step away. Leave your desk with a hungry state of mind, hungry for art. You can build the same kind of craving for your art too, associating your office, your desk, and your art to a really good positive feeling, something that you just can't wait to get back to. Just like everything that makes us feel good, you'll want to do it more. Start teasing yourself that way. And let me know how big of a difference that makes if you try it. It's been a huge breakthrough for me in the last couple of years that I've started to do this, and you should too. And now, the fourth tip. Limit the amount of artists that you follow, or limit the amount of art that you look at every day. It's human nature to compare yourself to others, and it's usually, for the majority of people at least, destructive when the only art in your stream on social media is professional stuff or, very, very good artists, better than you are. I'll take the example of an RPG game here where the monsters get stronger as you level up. If you never go back to the starting zones to see how easily you can clear everything now, it's hard to notice your progress at all. If you're always comparing yourself to better artists, you'll always be disappointed, and that's very, very bad for long-term motivation. No motivation, no practice, and you stop improving. No! So just like in a game, it's important to compare yourself to better and worse monsters. I mean, in this case, artists, of course, to get a vision for what's possible, how far, how good you can become, but also for what you've accomplished so far. And feel proud of that. And hey, if you get better than others at certain things, why not help them out with useful feedback? It's really, really important to not always look up, look at skills that you don't have yet. It's also extremely important to look back and see how far you've come, how much better than other artists you are now. Not as a way to brag, of course, but as self-motivation. Actually, this is the perfect segue into the last tip of the video, the fifth tip, which is learn and practice with the intention to teach. To help make my point here, let's just look at a random example. Imagine that you have to read a book tonight, knowing that tomorrow you're gonna get with a bunch of friends and discuss it. I would guess that you probably won't retain that much information. A little bit, the gist of it, but just enough to participate in the conversation, right? It's not like you're gonna take notes and stuff. But now, imagine the situation is different. You still have to read the book, but instead of a casual conversation with friends tomorrow, you have a TED Talk presentation on that same book in front of an audience and cameras. Think you might retain more of the information in that second scenario? Hell yeah, you will. You have a lot more writing on this. You have a lot to lose. You could publicly be embarrassed. If it's clear that you don't really know what you're talking about, that's not a good feeling. And so to avoid that, you're far more likely to retain more information in that second scenario. Maybe you'll even take a few notes. So approach learning art as if you had a TED Talk about it tomorrow. This video is a good example. All these things I mentioned here have the potential to greatly improve the speed of your progress, considering, of course, that you don't already do some or all of it. And so I'd encourage you to try and listen to the content as if you needed to explain it publicly tomorrow. Of course, that's unlikely that you'll have to explain it publicly, that is. But one thing that's way more likely is that you might repeat the information as feedback to another artist. If you learn something in my videos or elsewhere and you spot someone online who might need that information, that's a great opportunity to teach via the feedback that you could give. Make it a habit to be helpful to others. Not only is this great for your own online presence, leaving breadcrumbs everywhere back to your own profile, but it'll change how you absorb information too. To give good feedback, you need to have a deep enough understanding of what you're explaining. It's just a small mental switch that you need to activate, but if you learn with the intention of teaching, the difference is life-changing. Now, I'm only mildly exaggerating. This, of course, doesn't only apply to art, which is great, but it certainly, most definitely applies here. And this is going to wrap up the class today. If you do start to apply this stuff and notice a difference, let me know down below. If you're already doing some of this, how much has it impacted your growth as an artist? Which has had the biggest impact for you? Let me know. Found the video helpful? Also let me know by destroying the like button until it turns blue. If you're already a subscriber, you know I love you. If you're not a subscriber yet, you must click the subscribe button if this was helpful. For that low price, you get a new art tutorial every week. Now, that's good value for your money. Alright, next week will be a little different than usual, so I'll probably post a few days earlier since it's Christmas, but you won't want to miss the video because